I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. Today, we tell about some of the top technology developments of the last 10 years. The technological revolution is changing the way we work and play. Mobile phones became smartphones with abilities like computers. Many people started reading books on electronic readers. Televisions became high definition, and the screens became flat. Digital music players got smaller in size, but large enough for people to download their entire music collections. Worldwide broadband subscriptions passed 500 million. And at least 2 billion people were expected to be online by the end of 2010. Stephen Baker is the Vice President of Industry Analysis for the Consumer Electronics Market Research Group, NPD. He says the technological developments of the 21st century have brought about some historic advances in consumer electronics. He said 10 years ago might as well be 100 years. If you look back at the way people interacted with electronics in 2000 and the way they interact with them today, there is no comparison. 10 years ago, there were no flat panel televisions. There were no mobile web devices or smartphones. There were no e-book readers. And very few people had notebook computers. Bruce Bockenheimer is with the MIT Enterprise Forum in New York City. He is also the Director of Entrepreneurship at Pace University. He talked about what he believes are the most important technological developments of the 21st century. They are mobile computing, digital media content, broadband, social media platforms, and user-generated content. Also, digital photography and global positioning systems for consumers. Mr. Bockenheimer says all of these things have worked together to revolutionize technology. And he says the technology is constantly changing, faster than at any other time in history. He said telephones had not changed for 3 or 4 decades. They could be on a wall or on a tabletop. But now, cell phone technology is changing every year. He asked, how many people have a cell phone that is more than a year or 2 old? For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn more about technology on our website, voaspecialenglish.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes at VOA Learning English. This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Europe's deadly outbreak of a rare form of E. coli bacteria has brought new attention to food safety issues. One of the problems when people get sick from food is that the simplest question is often difficult or even impossible to answer. Just what did the people eat that made them sick? Of course, one way to avoid these medical mysteries is to keep dangerous organisms out of the food supply. This is easier said than done, but scientists keep trying. Scientists in the United States have developed an experimental system that uses a high-tech optical scanner. This inspection system is meant for packing houses where produce is sorted for market. The system is designed to identify the presence of contaminants like soil or animal waste on fresh produce. These can be sources of Escherichia coli, better known as E. coli. E. coli bacteria naturally live in the intestines of humans and many animals. Most kinds of E. coli are harmless, but some can make people sick. The new scanner can also show damage and imperfections that might make the produce unappealing to shoppers. Scientists designed the system at a Department of Agriculture research center in Beltsville, Maryland. Moon Kim of the Agricultural Research Service led the team. He says they were asked to develop a method to detect contamination in produce. So they started with the apple as their model sample. The scanner uses a high-speed camera placed over the conveyor belt that moves the produce along. As the apples move along the belt, the scanner captures images of each piece of fruit. The system is equipped with an ultraviolet lamp and a halogen lamp that produces near-infrared light. A spectrograph device can use the near-infrared light bouncing off of an apple to show evidence of damage. The ultraviolet light can show contaminants. Moon Kim says the team hopes the system will be available to the food industry in the next several years. The scanner can direct a sorting machine to separate the bad apples from the good ones. The system is currently able to show the surface of only half the apple as it speeds by. The inventors hope to improve the process so it can show the whole surface. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn American English and much more every day at voaspecialenglish.com. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Much has been done to improve security in the United States since the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Intelligence sharing and cooperation between federal, state, and local government agencies is said to be at an all-time high. There have also been improvements in airport security. But a new report says the United States is not as safe as it should be. It says America is not yet prepared for a truly catastrophic disaster. The report is from the National Security Preparedness Group at the Bipartisan Policy Center. The group is led by former New Jersey Governor Thomas Kean and former Congressman Lee Hamilton of Indiana. The two men also led the 9/11 Commission. Congress established the commission to investigate the hijacking attacks and to make proposals for guarding against future attacks. The new report noted that 9 of the reforms proposed by the Commission have either been carried out ineffectively or completely ignored. For example, the 9/11 Commission found that communication problems were a major issue during the attacks 10 years ago. Police, firefighters, and medical crews had trouble talking to each other because they were using different radio frequencies. Officials said this lack of communication led to needless loss of life. The commission said the government should identify radio frequencies that would be used only for emergency communications. However, this has yet to be done. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton commented on the report. She said radio frequencies for first responders was an issue she had worked on in the Senate and is long overdue for completion. On another issue, border security, she said, "We have emphasized innovation. For example, we are now using sophisticated new biometric screening tools to improve border security and the visa process." The report praised the deployment of U.S. Visit, a biometric entry system in the United States. The U.S. Visit system uses digital fingerprints and photographic images to identify people entering the United States. The report notes that a similar system for those leaving the country has yet to be established. It says such a system could have helped officials find 2 of the hijackers involved in the 9/11 attacks. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. To read and listen to more stories and to learn English, go to voaspecialenglish.com. From VOA Learning English, welcome to the Economics Report in Special English. China has been struggling to deal with record levels of smog over Beijing. Recently, officials in several Chinese cities announced plans to trade carbon credits as a way to reduce air pollution. For many years, China considered economic growth more important than the environment. The nation remains hungry for energy, but it has also become the world's biggest producer of carbon gases. Beijing's smoggy days have made international news. Small particles in the air reduce visibility and threaten public health. Smog has been a concern in the city for years, but a sharp rise in pollution levels in January led to sharp criticism from many Chinese. Pollution from coal-burning power centers and factories is a big part of the problem. Now, officials hope to control industrial air pollution by creating systems to trade carbon credits. The trading systems or platforms would enable companies to receive credits for lowering greenhouse gas emissions. The credits can then be traded. The goal of these market-based platforms is to get businesses to invest in clean technology. Markets for carbon credits are expected to open this year in 7 cities, including Beijing, Shanghai, and Tianjin. Officials say the government has decided to start with pilot programs because carbon trading is something new. China wants to launch a national carbon trading program by 2016. Still, public pressure continues building on the government to find an answer to thick air pollution. Wu Changhua is with the Climate Group. She says the Chinese people are looking at more than jobs. They want a better environment, too. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Sub-Saharan Africa has the world's highest hunger rate. The United Nations says 30% of the people were undernourished last year. But a new report says African farmers also have ideas that could help the world fight hunger and poverty. Danielle Nierenberg from the World Watch Institute in Washington spent a year visiting 25 countries south of the Sahara. In Nairobi, Kenya, for example, Ms. Nierenberg found women farmers growing vegetables just outside their doorsteps in the Kibera settlement. She says the area is crowded, dirty, and noisy. But the people are finding ways to make their lives better. The women use old sacks filled with soil. They cut holes in the sides of the tall bags so air gets to the seeds. The women feed the vegetables to their families and sell their surplus. They use the money to send their children to school. Last year, an estimated 925 million people worldwide did not get enough to eat. Half of all people in the world now live in and around cities. Researchers like Ms. Nierenberg are looking increasingly at creative ideas to feed those who are malnourished. She said there are a lot of lessons that people in the Western world can learn from Africa. And what they are doing can be done in other developing countries. Farmers in the developing world lose between 20 and 40% of their harvest before it ever reaches market. Asma Latif from the group Bread for the World says there are many reasons why food gets wasted. Farmers are without electricity and cold storage. They lack good seeds and fertilizer. They lack good roads. Ms. Latif says conditions like these keep small farmers in poverty. Danielle Nierenberg says more attention needs to be paid to protecting harvests. In Nigeria, village processing centers are helping farmers reduce their losses and earn more money. The centers process cassava, a root vegetable, into basic food products. In Uganda, the World Watch report says some schools are teaching children how to grow local crops. And in South Africa and Kenya, the report praises the breeding of local kinds of livestock. These animals may produce less milk or meat than other breeds, but they can survive heat and drought conditions. The report is called State of the World 2011, Innovations That Nourish the Planet. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Economics Report. A $10 billion deal aims to create the world's largest exchange company. The plan would combine the operators of the New York Stock Exchange and Germany's Frankfurt Stock Exchange. The two companies, NYSE Euronext and Deutsche Börse, announced the agreement in February. Deutsche Börse shareholders would own about 60% of the combined group. One thing it still needs is a name. The new company would have headquarters in Frankfurt and New York City. The New York Stock Exchange is the world's most famous stock market and a symbol of American capitalism. Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner says New York will remain at the heart of the world's financial system for a long time to come. But the exchange business has changed in these days of high-speed trading by computers in a globally connected economy. The big board now has to compete with smaller exchanges. Where stocks are traded has become less important than how much those trades cost. NYSE Euronext and Deutsche Börse had profits of almost $4.5 billion last year. They expect to save $400 million a year by combining their operations. These savings could lower the cost of stock orders. But the size of the company could raise concerns about competition in the exchange industry. The new company would also have trading operations in Britain, France, and other European countries. Stock trading and other financial services would remain important to the combined company. But much of its income is expected to come from trading complex financial products called derivatives. The deal requires approval by American and European officials and by shareholders. Other exchange operators, like the CME Group, could try to offer a higher price for NYSE Euronext. The CME Group, operator of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, is one of the world's largest traders of derivatives. Duncan Niederauer, chief executive of NYSE Euronext, is expected to keep that job in the new company. He says combining with Deutsche Börse will make the company more competitive. In February, the operators of the London and Toronto stock exchanges announced a deal to combine their companies. And in October, the Singapore exchange offered to merge with Australia's exchange. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Do you think getting cold can give you a cold? Is it bad to drink milk when you have a cold? Can chicken soup cure a cold? Ranit Mishori is a family medicine doctor at Georgetown University Medical Center in Washington. She says colds are more common in winter, but not because of low temperatures. The cold weather just means people stay inside more, often with other people. And the way the common cold virus is transmitted from one person to another is through handshakes, through sneezing, or through coughing on one another. Adults generally get 2 to 3 colds a year. Children are likely to catch 4 or 5. Dr. Mishori says some people mistakenly believe they can become resistant to colds. She says there are about 200 different viruses that cause the common cold. People think that once you get infected one time, you develop immunity for the rest of your life. This is wrong. There is still no cure for the common cold, but Dr. Mishori says there are ways to feel better sooner. So if you catch a cold and on day 1 you start taking about 2 grams of vitamin C a day, there is evidence you might shorten the number of days that you will be suffering with these symptoms. She says honey can also help. There is evidence that it can shorten the length of the common cold, sometimes even by 2 to 3 days. She says honey seems to be especially effective in children with colds. But the Agriculture Department says never to feed honey to babies less than 1 year old. It says even honey in prepared foods may contain substances that can make babies very sick. Some people believe in treating a cold with chicken soup. Does it work? Dr. Mashori says chicken soup has anti-inflammatory properties, so it helps reduce the duration, but also it helps clear the mucus. Mucus is the sticky substance that can make you cough and have trouble breathing during a cold. Have you ever heard the old saying, feed a cold, starve a fever? Dr. Mashori says this is not necessarily a good guideline to follow. She says if you have a cold but do not feel hungry, then don't eat. But you have to drink a lot, and you can drink water or tea, anything that gets fluids into your body. That's very important. But what about drinking milk during a cold? Some people think it only causes more mucus. Dr. Mashori says yes and no. Dairy products do not cause increased mucus, she says, but they can thicken the mucus. She says it's possible that discomfort is somewhat more enhanced when you drink milk. But obviously, if you're a baby and that's all you drink, you should not stop giving babies milk. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. MP3s, podcasts, and transcripts of our reports are at voaspecialenglish.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at VOA Learning English. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. A report by the Consumer Electronics Association says electronics were among the most popular gifts bought this holiday season. It also predicted that spending on these devices would set new records. The CEA said consumers were expected to spend an average of about $230 on electronics. This is 5% more than in 2009 and the highest level since the organization began keeping records of holiday spending. Jim Barry is a spokesman for the Consumer Electronics Association. He said the CEA study found that electronics represented 3 of the top 5 things on its holiday gift wish list in 2010. He said notebook computers are at the top, followed by iPads and then e-readers. iPad is a touchscreen tablet computer, and that's really the big player in that category. The computer company Apple began selling its small touchscreen computers in April. People use the touchscreen computers to surf the web, write emails, watch movies, and read books. Since the iPad's release, several other companies came out with their own tablet computers just in time for Christmas. A report from the eMarketer Research Group predicts that worldwide tablet sales will reach more than 81 million in 2012. Still, Jim Barry says these devices faced tough competition from another Christmas favorite. He said, another hot category right behind that are the e-readers. So you can read on an iPad or a touchscreen tablet, but the e-book readers are less expensive. The Kindle is the market leader there from Amazon. But you also have the Nook from Barnes & Noble and the e-reader from Sony. Jim Barry says modern technology is changing the way people relate, and increasing their expectations for their electronic devices. He said, "It's really the ability to take your information and entertainment with you just about anywhere, to stay connected to your work and your family." The Consumer Electronics Association report found that iPod music players were also in high demand this holiday season. So were video game systems and digital cameras. But not all of the things on the holiday gift wish list involved electronics. The one thing that people wanted most, Jim Barry said, at the top of the list was peace and happiness. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. There has been a lot of talk about the debt ceiling in the United States. The debt ceiling is a legal limit on how much the federal government can borrow. Political disputes over that amount have concerned investors in recent weeks. American lawmakers must negotiate a new debt ceiling every time the federal debt reaches that legal limit. National debt grows when a government spends more money than it has available. Governments offer bonds and other investments to raise money to pay for this spending. In return, the government promises to repay with interest the investors who buy these securities. The financial demands of World War I led American lawmakers to establish a total debt limit. In 1917, Congress agreed that the president could borrow up to a set amount without seeking approval. Congress has agreed to change the debt limit 10 times since 2001. But the major parties may disagree on spending levels or on the need to borrow to pay for government operations. Other nations buy United States Treasury securities because they are considered the safest investment in the world. The partial shutdown of the federal government led to worldwide concern about the safety of these investments. Congress agreed to reopen the government without enforcing the debt ceiling, only one day before borrowing reached the legal limit. Lawmakers agreed to let the president decide what the Treasury Department could borrow through February 7th. Congress must now negotiate a new debt limit and resolve other budgetary issues in order to avoid another crisis. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Persutti.